Akpabio heads to Supreme Court over Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan suspension. Drama in Senate as Akpabio, Natasha mark birthdays amid tense ties. Welcome to Lightup Media News. Subscribe, comment, share, and like our videos. The political and legal battle rocking Nigeria's National Assembly has taken a dramatic turn as Senate President Godswill Akpabio has approached the Supreme Court to challenge the appellate decision connected to the controversial suspension of Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, who represents Kogi Central Senatorial District. The move by the Senate President signals a determination to secure a final judicial interpretation of the powers of the legislature, the limits of parliamentary discipline, and constitutional rights of elected lawmakers. According to court documents and reports by Leadership newspaper, Akpabio, acting in his official capacity as President of the Senate, has filed a motion before Nigeria's Apex Court seeking to regularize and sustain his appeal over the disciplinary action taken against the Kogi lawmaker. This development comes amid sustained national debate, public outrage in some quarters, and growing concerns over legislative authority, suspension of powers, and democratic accountability. The dispute dates back to a Senate plenary session in February 2025 when Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan raised issues bordering on parliamentary privilege, alleged procedural irregularities, and what she described as unfair treatment during legislative proceedings. Her intervention reportedly generated tension on the Senate floor, prompting leadership to refer her conduct to the Senate Committee on Ethics, Privileges, and Public Petitions. Following the committee's review, the Senate imposed a suspension on Akpoti-Uduaghan, barring her from plenary sections and legislative activities for a specified period. The decision immediately sparked controversy, with critics arguing that the punishment was excessive, politically motivated, and capable of silencing dissenting voices within the National Assembly. Unwilling to accept the Senate's action, Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan approached the Federal High Court in Abuja, challenging her suspension. She argued that the Senate violated her constitutional right to fair hearing, failed to follow its standing orders, and denied her adequate opportunity to defend herself before imposing sanctions. In a landmark judgment delivered on July 4, 2025, the Federal High Court examined critical questions surrounding parliamentary privilege, internal legislative procedures, and the extent to which courts can intervene in the affairs of the legislature. The ruling opened the door for further legal contestation, eventually leading to proceedings at the Court of Appeal, where the Senate leadership suffered setback. Following these appellate developments, Senate President Godswill Akpabio has now escalated the matter to the Supreme Court, seeking clarity and finality. In the suit filed in Abuja, Akpabio is listed as the appellant, while the respondents include Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, the Clerk of the National Assembly, the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and the Chairman of the Senate Committee on Ethics, Privileges, and Public Petitions, Senator Neda Imasuen. Akpabio's application seeks several reliefs, including an extension of time to apply for leave to appeal on ground of mixed law and facts, and an order deeming his notice of appeal and brief of arguments as properly filed and served. The motion was brought pursuant to the Supreme Court rules, the Supreme Court Act, and the relevant provisions of the 1999 Constitution as amended. Key arguments before the Apex Court. Legal sources say Akpabio's team is arguing that the appeal raises substantial constitutional and procedural issues that deserve the attention of the Apex Court. Central to the Senate President's argument is Section 60 of the Constitution, which empowers the National Assembly to regulate its own procedure. According to Akpabio, the presiding officer of the Senate is not mandatorily required to rule immediately on every point of privilege once raised. The Senate lawfully activated its internal disciplinary mechanisms, and the actions taken against Akpoti-Uduaghan was a response to what was described as disorderly conduct during plenary. The Senate leadership insists that allowing courts to overrule internal disciplinary actions could weaken legislative authority and disrupt parliamentary order. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, like, share, and put on the notification bell in order for you to be updated when we post our videos. On her part, Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan has remained defiant. She maintains that her suspension was unlawful, disproportionate, and carried out in breach of her right to fair hearing. Her legal team argues that the Senate failed to follow its own standing orders before referring her to Ethics Committee, thereby denying her a fair chance to defend herself. Supporters of the Kogi lawmaker have framed the case as a test of democratic tolerance, warning that unchecked disciplinary powers could be used to suppress minority opinions within the legislature. Adding another layer of complexity to the dispute is a related contempt proceeding. During the pendency of the suit, Akpoti-Uduaghan allegedly made a social media post that was said to have violated a subsisting court order. The Federal High Court ruled that the post amounted to contempt, imposing a fine and directing the senator to issue a public apology. However, Akpoti-Uduaghan has also appealed the ruling, arguing that the alleged contempt was criminal in nature and required strict compliance with statutory procedures. She contends that the court failed to follow due process as required for ers facie curae contempt cases. On Wednesday, January 21, 2026, Akpoti-Uduaghan's legal counsel was formally served with the Supreme Court processes, officially bringing all parties before the Apex Court. Legal analysts say the outcome of this case could set a far-reaching precedent on the balance of power between the legislature and the judiciary, the limits of parliamentary discipline, and the protection of lawmakers' constitutional rights. Interestingly, the escalation of the legal battle comes amid reports that both Akpabio and Akpoti-Uduaghan recently marked their birthdays, even as relationships between them remain deeply strained. Observers say the symbolism reflects a broader crisis within the Nigeria's political institution, where personal, legal, and institutional conflict increasingly play out in public view. Subscribe, like, and share this video.